What's going on, guys? It's Carrot, and today I'm coming out with my first ever YouTube video on the channel. So today I'm going to be getting right into it. We're going to be discussing the best controls, the best sensitivity, the best bindings for Rogue Company. Now, Rogue Company is a new game, very fun to play. It's got 3 different modes, as you can see right here. It's got Strikeout, it's got Extraction, and it's got Demolition. Now, if you enjoy all 3 of these game modes, I know you will enjoy Ranked and Practice. Practice is a place where you can get better and improve your skills so that you can dominate the world. Now, all you want to do is go up to Options and hit Settings, and we can get right into the controls and bindings. Now, for the controls, you're going to have Hold to Crouch on. You don't have to press the button repetitively just to get the crouch unbound. You know what I mean? Now, hold to sprint, you want to turn that off because you want to have to hold down the button the whole time just to be able to sprint around the map. And you want auto sprint on just so you can press the button once and you'll go all over the place in any direction you want. Now, personally, I like a faster sense, so I'm going to hold my controller sensitivities on 6.5 and 6.5, but when I ADS, I like to have a lower sense. So I'm going to put my ADS sensitivities on about 27. 25 to 30 is your optimal range, and with your controller sensitivities, 5 to 7 is another optimal range. Now, left stick dead zone, you're going to want to turn those down both to 1 because unlike other games, it does not work in percentages. It works in decimal places. So this was the equivalent to like 10%, and you usually want your dead zone from 9 to 15. Those are the optimal ones. Acceleration boost and acceleration boost multipliers, you want to turn those both down to the lowest they can go. You don't want your aiming going all over the place while you're playing the game. ADS mode, you want that on hold because if you let go of the button, you don't want your ADS to keep zooming in. How else are you going to hip fire effectively? If you have it on toggle, you're gonna have to press the button again just to un-ADS. Now, your scoping sensitivities, I have them on about 50 for right now, but usually I'm going to turn them up to about 60 when I go to snipe because I like a faster sense, like I said. Invert y-axis, you want this off. You don't want your right to go left and your left to go right. I mean, unless you live in Australia. Or unless you're playing upside down on controller. Either one, I mean, you want this off. Vibration, oh, that's a preference because I like mine on just to feel when I hit something or hit a nice headshot, but you could turn that off if you have good visuals. Reload, interact, you want press to interact and hold to reload. If you have press to interact and reload on, you're going to get very confused very fast. You're going to be picking up guns when you want to reload. You're going to be securing objectives when you want to reload. It's going to be a whole different ball game. And you don't want press to reload and hold to interact on because you want to be able to defuse objectives as fast as you can, and holding to interact is just going to elongate that time. Hold time, you want to turn that down to as low as it can go because you want to be holding the button down for as long as it takes the molasses to drip out of the tree. Am I right? Double press time, you want that as quick as it can be because you don't want to, let's say I'm double pressing on R2, you don't want that to be a long time. Motion sensor mode, you want that off. Just turn that off. Does all these don't matter. Just make sure you have motion sensor mode off. You do not want that on at all. Please do not put that on. Okay. Now for bindings, some of them are going to be the default bindings, but some of them you're going to want to change, so pay attention real fast. For open shot, you're going to want to keep that default. It's far away from the sticks, and unless you're playing claw, it's a really hard button to reach, so it's good for open shot, which you only can use when you're not actually playing the game. Open scoreboard, another great keybind right here because, I mean, that's mostly the same in every single game. Open map, open scoreboard, same thing. Keep that the way it is. Push to talk. I don't have push to talk on right now myself because I don't use push to talk in game, but if you want to, you could just add a combination of any buttons and it'll work out just fine. Contextual ping. This button is so important in the game when you want to mark somebody or you want to mark where you want to go. So you want to have a button that's really close to your little sticks on the controller, and so you're going to use this arrow on the D-pad. This arrow is very close, and while you're moving forward, you could easily press this button. Your emote and spray wheel doesn't really matter. That button's really far off anyway. You're only going to be using it if you want to dance on someone after you get a nice kill or after a round's over. Not as important. Quip and team comm, I don't use these, but if you're not using a mic, you might want to use these. Now moving down to movement, jump and mantle. That's a staple in every game. Most games use X, but if you use something different, you could change that just fine as well. Sprint, L3, pushing down on L3, that's a staple in most games as well. Now this is where it comes down to your preference. I like to use R3 for crouch and 0 or the O button for dodge roll. Now in game, crouch is a very useful mechanic, and you could get out of a lot of sticky situations using crouch and then a dodge roll. I know in Modern Warfare you could use circle to crouch and hold circle to slide or roll, whatever term fits better. But in this game you cannot use a button and hold it down for it to do some sort of mechanic. So in this game you have to have 2 separate binds for each one. Now, with that being said, as we move down here, you can see they're starting to get some combinations of buttons. Now, this is good because you could have infinite number of binds for all the things on this list. So, I mean, that's a plus. For your aim, L2 and R2 for aim and fire. I know some people use L1 and R1, but that's not really for me. You know what I mean? If you have some back bumpers, you can spray just as effectively, and it doesn't mess up any of your other keybinds as well. Interact and reload, both of them are going to be square. Same in almost every single game I play. Warzone, Fortnite, Rainbow Six Siege, almost everything has interact and reload on square. Now your gadget and your toggle shoulder. Now these are some of the most creative mechanics I've ever seen in a game. So for the gadget, when you hit L1, it doesn't just throw the gadget. You can actually aim your gadgets with L1 and then hit R2 to throw them. You could aim them like projectiles, and they show you where they're going to land. So this can be very useful if you're using a melee weapon and you want to throw it. Again, toggle shoulder. This is a mechanic I've never seen before in almost any game. If you walk up to a wall, most of the time in third-person shooters, you have a right-hand peek. But let's say you walk up to the wall from the left-hand side. In this game, if you hit R1 one time, you could switch your peek to the left-hand side and get a left-hand peek on your opponents. Now, I'm going to throw up a clip right now of me doing this in-game, and as you can see, I'm just going to walk up to the left of the wall, hit R1, and switch my peek. This way I have a clear shot at my opponent who's on the other side of the wall, and it works out for me in the best. Getting back to the keybinds, or bindings as some would say, your ability. Each operator has its own unique ability, and this can be activated by hitting L1 and R1. If you want to know what each of these operators' abilities do, please go see my other YouTube video on what each operator's abilities do. Now, to swap gadgets, you're going to press L3 and R3 at the same exact time. And by gadgets, I mean grenades, smoke grenades, gas grenades, trip wires, trip mines, other mines, anything that would be in the gadgets category, you're going to swap between by hitting those buttons. Now, as we move on to swap to next button, I use triangle. I know some games use R1 and L1, but in most games with 2 guns, you're going to use triangle just to swap very efficiently between those 2 guns. It's pretty much a staple in most Battle Royale games and even in some multiplayer games. Now, melee, I have mine as the down arrow because it's close to the sticks, but it's not as important as some of the other binds. You're not going to be taking out your melee weapon to hit someone when they're using a gun. I mean, how many of you have heard the saying, don't bring a knife to a gunfight? That's exactly what this is for. Melees are good because you can throw them and they do 100 damage, but when you're hitting, they usually only do around 40 to 50, which isn't as effective as using a gun would be. This concludes this video for the best controls and bindings in Rogue Company. If you have any suggestions or any videos that you want to see from me, drop a comment down below. Tomorrow I'm going to be coming out with a video on how to play Rogue Company and the best strategies to use. If you enjoyed this video just a tiny bit, may I suggest that you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell, and we'll see you next time. Peace.